the last minute here, I want to ask.
What you're hearing there from Capitol Hill, Greg Hicks, taking questions from the members of the House Oversight Committee, and it's not going well for the Obama administration. The number to call, by the way, if you want to weigh in, give your reactions to what you've heard and seen so far about these hearings, if you've been following it or listening to what we've been doing here, like to get your reactions, 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840, number to call if you'd like to weigh in with your reactions to what you've seen and heard today. Now, one of the issues that came up is the stand-down order. This is particularly, to me, you talk about callous, hard-heartedness, indifference. You know, and I've said, I think with this administration, I do not think President Obama cares about people at all. I mean, that may sound like a strong statement. I just don't think he cares. I think people to Barack Obama are not flesh and blood. They're like avatars. This whole thing is like Sim City for him. It's like a big giant game. And so you lose an avatar, that's no big deal. It's just pixels on a screen. I mean, it's almost like he looks at it that way. And I think Hillary Clinton is cut from the same bolt of cloth. So we know now that there were assets, special forces in Tripoli that were ready to be deployed and wanted to be deployed to Benghazi to try to provide some help. Now realize, it turns out, even if they'd gotten on that plane and gotten there, they probably would not have gotten there in time to save the lives of the last 2 Americans. That's immaterial because at that point, nobody knew how long this crisis was going to last. Nobody had any idea how long this thing was going to go on. And if it's a crisis, you get resources that are designed for that purpose. You get them there as quickly as you can because you've got no idea what this thing could turn into, how long it could last. And here is testimony given this morning about the fact that these special ops forces, ready to get on a plane, were told to stand down. Let's listen.
We determined that we needed to send a second team from Tripoli to secure the airport for the withdrawal of our personnel from Benghazi after the mortar attack.
But were any of these U.S. military personnel not permitted to travel on a rescue mission or relief mission to Benghazi?
They were not authorized to travel.
They were not authorized to travel. They know the attack is going on. They know by then that Ambassador Stevens is dead and his assistant is dead, and they are told to stand down. Don't go and provide help, even though this is why you exist. This is why your unit exists. This is what you have been trained to do. These are your skills, is to go in there and provide protection and rescue for American citizens in harm's way. Stand down. Don't go. We're not going to let you do it. We're just going to leave them out there like lambs to be slaughtered. Well, let's take some phone calls, 888-589-8840. Let's grab a call from Anthony in Richmond, Virginia. Anthony, welcome to Focal Point. What's on your mind?
Thanks a lot. I've been looking at the hearing. These guys are true patriots, especially Mr. Thomas. This guy was ready to go to war, and I just couldn't believe the questioning that she had the nerve to question, because the CT unit showed up, but he was supposed to show up in that meeting by being the deputy director.
Yes.
So by them locking him out, they knew that they were covering it up. And I'm glad that these guys are coming forward. I mean, me as being an ex-military guy, I mean, I would have gladly given my life for my country. But as of now, with this particular administration, no, it's no way. Obama has put all of us in harm's way.
Well, you know, Anthony, let me. I want to say something. I'll give you another chance to respond. You know, these guys. This Gibson guy was the commander of the Special Ops Unit. He was furious when they were not allowed to get on that C-130 and go to Benghazi and try to save American lives. He was furious that he and his men were told to stand down. Now, you think about that just for a minute. They know that this compound by this time has been attacked by rocket-propelled grenades. This is an Al-Qaeda. This is a well-coordinated terrorist attack. They've got no idea what they're going to face, what kind of assets these terrorists are going to have on the ground when they get to the airport. No idea what kind of firefight they're going to encounter. And still, Anthony, they wanted to go. They were determined to go. They were willing to put themselves in harm's way to try to save American lives, and that's exactly what you're talking about, that kind of...
Exactly. That's what we signed up for. And even the guy who he had said had a broken foot, and this guy was ready to lock and loaded and ready to go. And they get a call to stand down. It's no way in the world. I'm telling you, I mean, I'm glad they're putting it out there, but you and I know there's nothing that they're going to do to Hillary Clinton nor President Obama. But the word needs to go out that it's no way in the world that we should be able to let her in 2016. I'm telling you.
Well, yeah, I mean, boy, if anything comes out of this, it's certainly, I mean, one of the minimum kind of takeaways from this is that woman is not qualified to be the commander-in-chief. She is simply not qualified. She's either incompetent or she simply does not have the values that we have got to have in a commander-in-chief. Well, listen, Anthony, I appreciate that. Thank you for that call. And what he was talking about, Mark Thompson was the acting Deputy Assistant Secretary for Counterterrorism, and he testified this morning that he was pointedly excluded from the meetings the night the attack was going on. They kept him out of the loop. He was not invited to those meetings. He wasn't in the room. He wasn't at the table when a response was being put together for what had happened in Benghazi. So again, that is proof that Hillary Clinton, again, trying to do an end run around the counterterrorism unit. 888-589-8840. Let's go to Jamie, Aberdeen, North Carolina. Jamie, what's on your mind?
Hey, Brian.
Hey.
How are you today?
Good.
I'm wondering when they're going to start impeachment hearings. Because this stuff that's going on, I just can't believe that Richard Nixon got impeached for a botched burglary where they didn't steal nothing, and yet what Obama has done is, and his whole administration is responsible for at least 4 deaths. I'm sure there's probably more incidents that can go back to their decisions, but at least with what happened in Benghazi 9/11, he should be impeached for that because it is pure incompetence, lying, cover-up, and it's only difference between that and what Nixon did was that people died here, and there's nobody died in what Richard Nixon did.
Yeah. All right, James. Well, you're exactly right. And Eric Nordstrom, again, this business, I didn't know this until Eric Nordstrom gave this testimony about the security assessment of all the different diplomatic posts. To me, this is the smoking gun here. And Hillary Clinton's the only one that could waive those. And Eric Nordstrom said, look, if the Secretary of State did not waive these requirements, who did? This is sort of back to the Nixon area. What did the president know and when did he know it? Because what Eric Nordstrom is saying is either Hillary Clinton waived these requirements and deliberately exposed American diplomatic personnel to what they knew was an extremely dangerous environment, or somebody above her told her to do it. Well, that's going to be Barack Obama. So that goes right to the absolute top of the food chain. And Jamie's point is well taken. There's a difference. I mean, to me, this whole thing is impeachable. With Richard Nixon, it was a third-rate burglary. Nothing was even stolen. Now, I'm not saying it was justifiable. I think he should have been impeached, should have been removed from office. I have no problem with any of that. I think it was inexcusable, his effort to cover up this act of injustice on behalf of his reelection campaign. So I think justice was done. But like Jamie said, look, this is worse than Watergate because 4 people died. Under Nixon, nothing was even stolen. Nothing was even ripped off. And yet here we have 4 dead Americans. And again, I just cannot get over, and I'm going to revisit this here in a minute, I just cannot get over the inexcusable failure to pay attention to security assessments or to be guided by security assessments at that compound. Let's go to Todd, Houston, Texas. Todd, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
2 things. First of all, they did not do anything for that compound because they didn't want it to get bigger. Smaller is less noticeable. Now, as far as
and you're thinking that's because there was stuff going on there that they were trying to keep under wraps, all right?
Yes, and worse, just as bad as those 4 people dying, how much diplomatic information was taken? Nobody knows. That causes more death. Now, second comment, Hillary resigned. Why? Because she knew that she might have committed an impeachable offense. She did not want the embarrassment of having to defend against impeachment. She probably would not have been convicted because of the buddies she has in the Senate, but she would have had that on her record when trying to get elected. This will still kill her, I hope.
Well, and I just think the American people, appreciate the call, Todd, thank you. The American people have got to have a long memory on this, because Hillary Clinton does have her sights set on the White House in 2016, and I think this is an effort to try to cover her tracks there, preserve some kind of electoral viability. She knows this thing is lethal, could completely blow up in her face and torpedo what is left of her political ambitions. And it's interesting to see what happens here. Cheryl Atkinson of CBS News, she's the only member of the mainstream media that's done any genuine journalism when it comes to Benghazi, and she's done a pretty good job. She's blowing the whistle on what's going on here, and now she is in trouble with her bosses at CBS. They do not like the fact that she's doing what newsmen and journalists are supposed to do, which is to investigate, get at the truth, and tell the truth. Here's a piece from Breitbart.com. On Wednesday morning, Politico reported, on the heels of a glowing Washington Post profile of CBS News journalist Cheryl Atkinson, that CBS News is unhappy with Atkinson. Dylan Byers, he's a writer for Politico, reports that CBS News, quote, has grown increasingly frustrated with Atkinson's Benghazi campaign. CBS News executives see Atkinson wading dangerously close to advocacy on this issue. In other words, she's taken the side of the truth instead of the side of the administration. To CBS, that's advocacy. You're taking sides. If you take you take the side of truth instead of the side of liberal politicians, you are guilty of advocacy, and you're dangerously close to the line. Atkinson can't get some of her stories on the air and is thus left feeling marginalized and underutilized. That, in part, is why Atkinson is in talks to leave CBS ahead of contract, as Politico reported in August. So she could be saying sayonara to CBS, a once great network, home of Walter Cronkite and so forth. And Edward R. Murrow. Focal Point A for Talk, back after the news.
American